We don't need affordable housing in Walnut Creek.
Affordable housing looks trashy and won't fit into the community.
Affordable housing lowers our homeowner property values.
Affordable housing is only for renters, and it is easy to get into.
Affordable housing overcrowds our schools.
Handout and only benefits the poor.
Affordable housing increases traffic and crime.
We have enough housing. We need more business.
We have enough affordable housing. Why do we need more?
Good evening. If you watched the preform video that we just played, you may have noted that the comments tell a very different story than the video. And that's exactly what we're here tonight to discuss. What is the myth and what is reality. If you're here to learn about ways to access affordable housing, we have a resource page on the task force website. It's wchomelesstaskforce.org. I'm Donna Colombo, and I'm one of the founders of the task force, and with me is my co-chair, Mark Newsom. Pardon us while we play with the okay. So I'm Donna Colombo, one of the founder members of the task force, and with me is Mark Newsom, our co-chair. Since our inception in 2014, we've worked with the city and county resources to stabilize homeless services in the Walnut Creek and surrounding areas. And our purpose is to bring together resources needed to reduce negative impact of homelessness, bless you, in our community by developing low barrier access to services and support. This year, we focused on the #1 cause of homelessness, and that's lack of housing. Tonight, we're pleased to present Affordable Housing, Busting the Myths, under the direction of our fabulous moderator, Molly Klopp. Our fantastic panelists will bust the myths that surround affordable housing.
Sorry.
Thank you, Donna. So to go over the agenda for this evening, we're going to talk about we're going to have a dialogue about the myths and facts about affordable housing, as Donna mentioned. Our moderator is Molly Klopp. She's the board chair for Trinity Center. She's here right with us. We're going to have a question and answer session where you'll be able to, those joining us online will be able to submit questions through the Zoom tool. And here in the forum chambers, we're going to be walking around providing cards for people to fill out, and we'll process them through our team here. We'll also have a brief discussion about resources that you can access for more information, and we'll have a closing video. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our moderator, Molly.
Thanks. And they've been kind enough to requisition me a very fancy stool, so isn't that cool? So hi, everyone. I am Molly Klopp, your facilitator for this evening. I'm a retired healthcare executive, Trinity board chair, St. Paul's parishioner, and as an aside, I had the honor of chairing the team that envisioned and then built St. Paul's Commons, an amazing multi-use property with 44 units of affordable housing and a community space that houses Trinity Center. As Donna and Marco said, we're going to talk about the myths of affordable housing, 8 of them. And we have our experts queued up to address each myth, but all will chime in as appropriate. We'll be sure to leave Q&A time for the end because I know you'll have a lot of them. So let me introduce you to our wonderful panel of experts. So Alicia Klein is the Associate Director of Real Estate Development for Resources for Community Development. We'll allow one acronym, RCD, as we'll shorten it this evening. RCD is a not-for-profit affordable housing developer that's been in the field for almost 40 years. They provide rental housing to nearly 5,000 people in 25 cities. And Alicia was our development partner when we built St. Paul's Commons, and she's been involved in several projects in Walnut Creek. Mayor Cindy Silva has been on the Walnut Creek City Council since 2006, now in her 4th term as mayor. She's been involved in many important projects affecting and improving housing during her tenure, and for more than 10 years has served on the statewide Housing Policy Committee of the League of California Cities. She's a longtime active community volunteer and passionate about finding solutions to problems that we all face. Leslie Gleason is Executive Director of Trinity Center, a not-for-profit community-based organization that provides pathways to stability and a door to opportunity for the unhoused and working poor in Contra Costa County. It also provides services to rehomed individuals to help them be successful in maintaining their housing, and she serves on the Contra Costa Council on Homelessness. Our police chief, Jamie Knox, joined Walnut Creek in 2021, and we're very glad to have him. He's a dedicated public servant focused on enhancing public safety, ensuring accountability to the public by adhering to best practices, creating transparency, and is committed to helping address the issues of homelessness and poverty. Walnut Creek Police Department is really fortunate to have a dedicated homeless outreach team called HOP that have special training to assist individuals in crisis through connecting them with community services. Janice Jensen is the president and CEO of Habitat for Humanity, East Bay and Silicon Valley, and she's been in that role since 2005. Before she came to work at Habitat, she volunteered on their building sites and saw the incredible impact that insecure housing had on human beings, especially kids and families. Under her leadership, the East Bay Silicon Valley affiliate has grown astronomically, and they're currently building a 42 townhome development in Walnut Creek called Esperanza Plaza. Habitat, I think you all know, is a global not-for-profit with building housing in operations in over 50 states and 70 countries, lots of places. Next up is Nick Kosla. Nick is currently the Vice President of Land Entitlement at Toll Brothers. Toll Brothers is known as a nation-leading builder of luxury home, but they also have a major community impact in the affordable housing space through building affordable units in their developments, partnering with affordable housing builders, and contributing to affordable housing funding in their communities. In addition to Nick's 20 years of experience in real estate development, he has a rich background to add to our panel discussion, including his experience as a planning commissioner and city council person for Orinda. And Stephanie Brynan joined us in Walnut Creek. She's our housing manager. She joined in November 2022 and almost immediately got thrown into working with a broad range of constituents to develop and finalize the Walnut Creek housing element. This plan provides Walnut Creek with a way forward to address our diverse housing needs, and we are so lucky to have someone with the great experience that she brings to the table. Finally, Vincent Morales is the Chief Business Officer for Walnut Creek School District, where he's worked for over 4 years. The school district is a major employer in the city of Walnut Creek, and Vincent is uniquely positioned to help us understand the question, who needs affordable housing in Walnut Creek? So, pretty cool panel, huh? Lots of great people, so. So let's get to our myths. So, is this gonna work for me? Whoop, yep, or maybe I'm doing it and you're doing it. Let me try. Yay. Okay, what is affordable housing? What does it look like? We hear the myths. They're all high rises, they're like tenements, they're trashy, they don't fit in our aesthetic, they're poorly maintained. Well, let's talk about that. What really is affordable housing? What does it look like? Mayor Silva, you'd like to walk us through this, right?
Well, I'll start,
Okay.
at least from the perspective locally of here in Walnut Creek. And it is a common misperception. I've heard it over and over again in the 17 years I've been on the city council and the 3 years prior to that I served on the planning commission. There's a real perception that affordable housing translates to something that's old and less well cared for than you hope for. And actually, I've found over time that you often can't really tell if you walk down the street. So let's try a little quiz. Next slide, please.
Okay, there you go. First one's up.
Next slide.
Oh, next one. Thank you.
So Creekside Drive is in southern Walnut Creek, just south of Las Lomas High School. It has about 1,400 multifamily units between apartments and a few condominiums. And there's a big perception that it's all very affordable, low-income properties. But while that might be true, let's see if you can tell, there are 3 examples of the many projects and developments that are on Creekside Drive: the Retreat, the Bridge, and Iron Horse Place. So I'll ask the audience here in the room, you can just raise your hand and shout it out. Which one has affordable units?
Iron Horse Place.
So next slide. It is actually Iron Horse Place. Of all the 1,400 units of on Creekside Drive. Iron Horse Place is actually the only location of deed-restricted affordable units. It has a couple, and it's one of the best-looking buildings on Creekside Drive. So often, it doesn't tell, what it looks like doesn't tell you what it will be. Next slide. So near the BART station, we actually have about 4,200 units of apartments and condominiums within an easy walk. And by easy walk, I mean 6 to 9 blocks. You can do it in 15 minutes or less. And these are just 3 of the developments near BART: the Windsor Apartments on North Main, the Arroyo, which is, oh, what a surprise, on Arroyo Drive, and the Riviera, which is on Riviera Drive. So which of these has affordable units? So next slide, please. Actually, 2 of these complexes do. The Riviera is a 100% affordable project for low income and very low income, and it has 57 units between 2 buildings. But virtually backing up to it is the Windsor Apartments, which is next to the Marriott Hotel. And the Windsor has 13 units of affordable housing amongst 125 units. So about 10% of the project is deed restricted affordable. Next slide, please. So housing for seniors is very important in Walnut Creek because we have about 30% of Walnut Creek's population is over the age of 65, and they all don't live in Rossmore. In fact, less than half actually live in Rossmore. So the rest of our seniors are living amongst us in the community, and we know that. So, but the need for affordable housing for seniors is very important because they're on restricted incomes or they're living off of their savings, et cetera. And so we have 3 projects here: Tice Oaks, which is near the Tice Valley Gymnasium; Villa Vasconcelos, which is across from Sprouts on Treat, Geary, and North Main; and then Carmel Pines, which is actually adjacent to the National Guard Armory on Lincoln Avenue. So which of these has affordable units? All of you at home are trying to guess, I know. Next slide. Actually, 2 of the 3 of these. Although Carmel Pines has many lower income seniors living in it, it is not deed restricted low income. Tice Oaks has 90 units of 100% affordable, and Villa Vasconcelos, which was opened about 2007, has about 70 units of 100% affordable housing. And my last quiz question, we do have affordability also in for sale units. These are 2 townhome projects which are near the Contra Costa Center, Pleasant Hill BART station. Avant Place, which is 18 units of townhomes, and Esperanza Place, which will be, I'm not sure if it's 42 or 44, 42 units, townhome units. And so she just gave you the answer because I asked her a question. So next slide. Even though these 2 projects are near each other and they have the same exterior features, same height, same basic density, it's actually Esperanza Place that is a 100% affordable project being constructed by Habitat for Humanity. And I think what we learned from this is you can't tell a book by its cover.
So true, Cindy. Thank you. So let's talk to some of the people who are building these places. We'll start off with Janice and talk about Habitat.
Thank you. And sorry to give that last one away. Sometimes I can't help myself. We're so thrilled to be building in Walnut Creek again. And Esperanza Place, as we noted, is 42 townhomes, and they're 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms, 100% affordable. And as you can see from the pictures, we have one stage. We like to build light, bright, lots of interior lights. The exteriors are beautiful with flower boxes. And we also are very keen on being a part of the community that we're building in. We spend a lot of time with experts and engineers and designers to make sure that we are not only building but designing the best possible homes for families to live in. And we certainly did that in Walnut Creek, and we have a lot of community meetings. And while we're building the physical community, we're building the human community. And if you've ever come out to volunteer on a Habitat site, and I hope you do again, you know that it takes a community to build a community. We're also passionate about our green building, and this is a zero net energy development, so it will produce more energy than it consumes. We think that is not only a good thing and a soft footprint on the earth, but it's healthier for families. Basically, we want to be a good neighbor. We try to be a good neighbor. We want to thread into the community so that when you are walking down the street, you see a beautiful development with families and kids playing, and you have no idea from the looks of it that this is affordable housing.
Thank you. Nick, Toll Brothers does this a little bit differently.
Yeah. Did I press the button?
Yes, good
And
job.
thank you. And just to piggyback off, and I'm not here speaking on behalf of Toll Brothers,
No.
the current company I'm working for, but I've worked in this industry for a couple decades, both on the development side and on the the vertical construction side. And to piggyback off of what Janice was saying, the consultants that she hires are the same consultants that we hire. So they're hiring, for some reason I always thought affordable builders had to do what cities do, which is hire sometimes the lowest per bid that comes in. But I'd say quite the contrary. I'd say a lot of the affordable builders, they hire the best architects and landscape architects like Gates and Associates, and the civils that they're using, again, are the same civils we use in the arborists. So the product that they're delivering, at least today, I don't know if this was different 50 years ago, is the same product that we're delivering, at least in terms of the quality of finishes, what the outside looks like, what the landscape looks like. And as we were talking a little bit about, so Toll Brothers were a market rate home builder. But typically, every city, at least in California, will have an affordable housing ordinance. And in that ordinance, if I'm building, let's say, 100 units of market rate housing, 15 of those units would have to be below market rate housing and offered for a significant discount than the unit next to it. You can also pay a fee, and you can also, in some cases, build a large affordable building standalone by itself versus the affordable units being mixed in within the community. So there's a couple examples. Is this up there? Yeah. So, if you look at I'll play my Mayor Silva game. So if the Metro Crossing Fremont project, so there's about 750, 800 units in there. I think it'd probably be pretty difficult to tell which ones are affordable. And in fact, there's 2 100% affordable buildings that are the ones closest in the photo. But it's indistinguishable. And again, it's, the finishes on the inside, if you go down to like 370 Aliso in Sunnyvale, so one unit on the left, it's a duplex. One unit on one side is affordable, and one unit on the other side is a market rate unit. So the one unit, I don't even know which one is which, but one unit on one of the sides sold for more than half as much as the one next door. And the finishes on the inside, it's not like when we build the unit. If you were to walk into the units while they were under construction, the 2x4s are the same, the materials for the floor are the same, the sinks are the same, toilets, it's indistinguishable from the inside. Now, if a homeowner wanted to upgrade the inside of it, that's their choice to do. They can put in a fancier microwave or refrigerator if they want to. But from the outside and the inside, it's the same unit.
Yeah, very much looks the same.
Yep.
And I know RCD also focuses on this, fitting the community that you build in. So, Alicia.
Yes, I can remember many meetings with the St. Paul's Episcopal Church, figuring out what kind of site planning and how tall the building should be and where the entrances should be, so that we would have our residents coordinated with the Trinity Center participants, coordinated with the church, and what was the look and feel that was going to feel like it was like this was the right fit for our location here. And I think that came out really great. Thank you, guys.
Considering we have a historic chapel on site, that added another design
absolutely.
element. So, yeah.
And we're also looking at what happens on the inside. my fellow panelists were mentioning about the finishes, and what we're looking for is on the outside and on the inside to have not only a gracious, healthy place to live, but durable. So we want it to be practical, cost-effective, and durable so that we can maintain it for the long run. We're really planning to own all of our properties for at least 55 years, so it has to be able to last through a long time. This is an example. This image here is actually a renovation that we did, turning single-room occupancy apartments into studio units where we added kitchenettes and really responding to what were the tenants going to want to live, have around them to have a place where they felt like they could thrive.
Great. So I guess we can't tell affordable housing units from the other stuff. So that's good to know. Good to know. So we busted that myth. Let's talk about the next one. Who lives in affordable housing? Why does Walnut Creek need affordable housing? Do we have the constituents that are desirous of this? I mean, we hear the myths that, these are all transients or people on welfare or residents who won't fit into our community. But that's not exactly reality, is it, Stephanie?
It's not. We've recently done a needs assessment as part of our housing element that you guys may or may not have heard about. And so I do have some data from that. For example, 18% or 1 in 5 households in Walnut Creek spend over 50% of their income on rent and are considered to be severely cost burdened. 12% of Walnut Creek households from 2013 to 2017 made $41,000 or less and were considered to be in the lowest income bracket. The city's population in the years 2000 to 2019, the city's population grew significantly. The senior population grew 26% during that time, and the other age bracket that grew significantly were young adults, aged 25 to 34, and they grew 3%. And finally, one of the occupations with the highest number of job openings are personal care aides by almost double, and 5 of the 10 fastest growing occupations in Walnut Creek are in the medical profession, with nurses being number 1. And so all of that to say, who needs affordable housing in Walnut Creek? They're your teachers, your nurses, your store clerks, your retail salespeople, the seniors who are on fixed income, as well as the young families who are really trying to start their lives. They're the people that you interact with every day. And every single community has a broad diversity of needs, of incomes, of individuals, and it's part of the city's goal to be able to meet that diversity of need as best as we can. And so that's why affordable housing is critically important.
Great. And Vincent, you deal with this all the time in your role, right?
Absolutely. It's not just teachers. Obviously, teachers need affordable housing, but almost half of our employees at the school district are not teachers. They're your child nutrition support team. They're your custodians, your office managers, your accounting team. It takes a village, right? And our village needs a village in Walnut Creek. And even though we spend 80% of our budget on staffing and salaries and benefits, every year when we sit together with our labor partners and we try to address the issue of how do we attract and retain our employees, it's a challenge. We do our best. This year alone, over 20% of our teacher workforce are brand new. We lost a few teachers to retirement, which is congratulations to them. But a lot of our teachers, because of the shortage in the state, they can work where they live. And a lot of them don't live here because they can afford it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. And Alicia, you see a lot of the residents coming across applying for your units.
We do. We not uncommonly have about 100 applications for each apartment that we are finishing building. And so the demand is very high, the need is very high, and as Stephanie was describing, it is both working households and community members who have disabilities or are seniors on a fixed and limited income, or any combination of that. And those families might be earning as much as $87,000 and still qualify for this affordable housing, and that might be single parents who are teachers or nonprofit employees, or individuals can be making as much as $29,000, but that represents a minimum wage job, and that is that could be those caregivers or service and retail workers or delivery workers or artists who have been just priced out of what's available in the rental market. And I checked with my colleagues to see just on average how long are residents staying in RCD properties, and really interesting to learn that the average length of our tenants staying is 7 years, and the longest standing tenants being 40 years.
Wow.
So that's really these are community members who are sticking around.
Invested, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, awesome, awesome. I think you had a preview of who some of the tenants might be at Esperanza.
Yes, I'm really excited about the families moving in to Walnut Creek because these are folks who already live and work in the area. So we are serving the community of people who are already in the community. And they are not transient. They are the backbone of the community. We have healthcare workers, teachers, service providers, postal workers. There's a number of people. And we also have at least one senior. I'm not sure if we have more. But yeah, everybody that is buying and moving into this beautiful development is already in the community, serving the community. And what an honor it is for them to be able to live and work where they are already engaged with their community to support.
Excellent, thank you. So let's move on then to myth number 3. How does this affordable housing work affect property values? We hear it lowers property values, homes nearby are hard to sell, the neighborhoods look bad, so that affects the values, poor maintenance affects the values. Is any of that true, Nick?
Well, I mean, out of full disclosure, 20 years ago, I probably believed a lot of these myths. And so I think most of what I speak from is just from the data I've seen and the experience I've had. So I have no preconceived notion one way or another. But from what I've seen and all the data I've seen, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, the amount of the rules, so when you build, especially in the Bay Area, there's going to be a homeowners association with CC&Rs, which are conditions, covenants, and restrictions. So basically, and we'll take the simple example. If you're building 100 homes and 15 of those are going to be affordable units, all 100 of those homes, including the 15, have the same rules that they have to follow. So with regards to maintenance, well, the maintenance is typically the HOA is controlling all the maintenance, especially if the building is one building with, let's say, 10 units or 50 units in it. All the landscaping, that's being maintained by the HOA. So the maintenance issue, I just haven't seen that, or at least not in the last 20 years I've been doing this. And I think going forward, these HOAs just get stricter and stricter about what, I mean, sometimes you hear horror stories about how strict they are.
Won't let you paint it pink, right?
You can't do anything, right? And so, as far as, when we go and acquire land, typically we're in the Bay Area, we're so constrained real estate-wise, you're just trying to build market rate housing wherever you can. And the affordable folks are trying to build their housing wherever you can. And, oftentimes, we'll team up. So if we have a 1,000-unit project, we'll team up with an Eden or a USA Properties, whoever, and we'll build, let's say the 750 market rate units, and then there will be a building right next door that's going to be the affordable building. But we don't discount the price on the unit next to the affordable building because there's an affordable building next to it. I don't think most people, at least builders, are putting their pro formas together where it would be contrary to that.
True. And Janice, you have a lot of experience with this as well.
Yeah, that truly just is a myth. It doesn't, I don't believe this is reality, especially in the Bay Area. In fact, property values are enhanced. I have never looked at a single one of our developments and been able to say, oh, property values around that went down. Opposite, they go up. Because again, we work in the community, with the community, we thread in, all of that's very intentional. And as Nick said, everybody has a homeowner association. And all of these homes are deed restricted, meaning they can't buy them under market today and flip them and make a big cash tomorrow, because that's not how it works. But with those deed restrictions come a lot, it's a very high bar. They have to maintain their homes, not just the look, but all of it. And the HOA, the Homeowners Association, not supposed to talk in acronyms, maintains the exterior, but also we have a high expectation of what goes on in the interior. So we work very hard with our families, and I just see this myth as nothing but that, a myth. It's just not true.
Yeah, I did a broad internet search, couldn't find any articles at all that documented any decrease, only speculation that it's either the same or increases, you know, as property values increase over time as well. So
right.
This is busted. All right. So what about parking? Is traffic going to get worse? Are we going to have parking issues? Are there going to be broken down cars? Nobody's using transit systems. They're going to go out of business. Is that what's happening with affordable housing? Alicia, you want to take a first stab at talking about how affordable housing impacts traffic?
Yes. Affordable housing, and especially the typical location of affordable housing, which is near transit, in that walkable 15-minute distance, does have less impact on traffic than the same number of market rate homes. And that's for several reasons. The first being that in general, on average, lower income households have a lower rate of car ownership than the general public. And then secondly, because of the priorities that the state funding sources have for the location of affordable housing, we have to cite those communities near to stores, near to schools, and so that again reinforces the ability of residents to live a less car-oriented lifestyle. And therefore, so affordable housing can actually, the third fact is that lower income households tend to use public transit more than the general public. So when you take all those three together, we are able to have developments that meet our residents' need for parking spaces with fewer parking spaces than market rate counterparts. And then if we don't build the space, it doesn't get filled, and that helps us create the communities kind of the future, where we're locating folks' homes near to transit, so that can make it easier for the transit agencies to justify they'll have higher ridership, so they can actually make more frequent service, and we all can that benefits the whole community. We can go more light on our car usage. And I wanted to answer one question I heard in one of those myths, which is, what about broken down cars that are going to be junking up the place? And that is one of our rent-up requirements, is that tenants can only bring onto the property and park their cars that have current licenses and are currently operable. So yeah, we don't want that either.
Yeah, and I would imagine HOA, Homeowners Association rules would say the same. We don't want broken down cars in our area. So, Nick, I know that you have some experience with this as well.
Yeah, can you go back a slide if that's not going to totally throw you off?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So I can just kind of peg these one by one. And I don't know if there's a traffic engineer here. No, I thought there might be, but typically with regards, right. Typically with regards to traffic, there's a model when you're doing a community, and there's X amount of traffic assigned to different types of residential units. So like a single family detached house that's 4,000 square feet, that's going to create the most cars, the most traffic. Usually 3-car garage in the suburbs, so it's driving further. I believe when you get to actual affordable apartments, that's one of the least amount of traffic-inducing product out there. I guess the reasoning might be that if you are in an affordable unit, you're not going to have 2-3 cars. You're going to have 1 car. You're going to have no cars. So I think if you were to ask a traffic engineer, they would say that traffic does not get worse. And I've seen the modeling too. It doesn't increase the traffic. And if it does increase the traffic, it's going to be much less than it would if it was a market rate unit. Typically, the parking issues, when I've seen recently models that show affordable builders, I think one, because the costs are so high, and also just because maybe the demand is less so to have parking. We want to build from a market rate builder. We want as much parking as possible, because even though we live in the Bay Area, even you would think by this time everyone would have electric cars and be walking everywhere. It's just not the case. Most people want a 2-car garage that they either store all their stuff in or have it stored like mine is, and there's a car on the other side. So typically, market rate builders are building a lot more parking than an apartment builder was. I think apartment or affordable is usually like a 1-to-1 ratio, whereas we would want 2 spots per unit. Broken down cars, yeah, same thing. We've talked about the HOA and CCNRs, which you can just look back at the film before. And those control, you would usually only be able to park a car in a guest spot, so something that's visible in a community, for like 72 hours, I'm going to say. There's limits set on that. So those get real strict. And residents will not use transit systems. I don't even know what that means, but yeah.
They do, yes. Great. Well, thank you very much. So let's move on to myth number 5. How does affordable housing impact crime and public safety? Does it drive up crime? Are our businesses going to be impacted by loitering? Are we going to have public safety issues with more affordable housing? And when people all live in high density, does that increase crime? Chief Knox.
Oh, she almost called me doctor.
I almost called you
promoted there.
I almost called you Jamie, but I'll call you Chief Knox out of respect.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a common myth, and I think, if you think about a lot of TV shows some of us grew up with in the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of very large public housing developments in larger cities. So that's what most people think of when they think of affordable housing, and then they relate that to crime. So what some major cities have done, Chicago in particular, is really broken up those large developments and distributed those families who needed affordable housing throughout the city, and that actually showed a net reduction in crime. So I'll start by saying that there was a recent study that Orange County did back in, it was just last year, where they looked at crime statistics 3 years prior to and 3 years after an affordable housing development was put in. And they did this in a couple of different facets. And what they found was that there was no evidence to support that it impacted crime adversely. In fact, especially when it comes to violent crimes such as robbery and assault. And back in 2008, there was a nationwide study that found no evidence to support when looking at small quantities of affordable housing units, meaning 50 units or less, there was no evidence to support that there was an impact on crime. So, and I know we talk a lot about busting the myths, but I want to talk about some of the positive things that affordable housing brings. So from a policing standpoint, we look at not just public safety, but also creating a safe environment for everyone and equal opportunity. So in 2015, Harvard did a study that showed that every year spent in a better area during childhood increases college attendance rates, earnings in adulthood, and reduced single parenthood rates. So there's a lot of benefits that we really don't talk about, but yeah, we'll bust that myth too. Affordable housing does not increase crime.
Yeah, and I think you also mentioned that often there's better lighting, there's better traffic flow of people around the buildings, and those all contribute to public safety as well.
Absolutely. So we're much smarter and better at designing communities now than we were maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago. So we look at crime prevention through environmental design. So whenever there's a planning project, it's not just planning that's involved, but it's also the police department and the fire department. We look at ingress and egress and traffic issues and parking spots, and we look at it from as many different angles we can from a prevention mindset. So yeah, I think we're much better at planning those communities than we were 30, 40 years ago, because we work more collaboratively with all of the stakeholders.
Yeah, that's great. And Alicia, I know RCD does a lot of work in this space to create that ownership in your communities.
We do. It's part of the design process and also the operational goals to make sure that we're thinking about our spaces from the perspective of creating safety and security for both our residents and for us in relationship to the neighborhood. And we want to, that will help just avoid crime, not to respond so much, but to like create the space so that it doesn't happen. And that's how we approach it operationally, is really wanting to be a partner with our neighbors, and to, if there's a neighborhood concern, let's be proactive about joining together and either joining a neighborhood watch, or hey, maybe we can form one, or let's strategize with our security officers, and so that we can be an active player together with our neighborhood. And that's how we're trying to be actually a force for good.
Great
Molly.
stuff. Yes.
It's me.
Yes.
So one of the projects that we have in Walnut Creek, affordable housing projects, was sited at a location that had originally, the prior occupants were single-family homes in one low-rise apartment building, and it was notorious in the police department for drugs and all of that. And today it's 40+ units of affordable housing, and I'm sure there are sometimes issues, just like there are in my household in terms with criminal intent. But it's improved the neighborhood significantly, and there were large concerns from the neighborhood prior to that development.
Being built, yeah.
But it's made a big difference.
Yeah, great, thank you. Thank you.
And I have no criminal intent. It was just a joke.
Full disclosure, okay. Well, so what about the impact as you're speaking on city resources and schools? Does it strain the infrastructure? Does less revenue come in so we have less services? Our police, trash, water, electricity stretched to the max, schools overcrowded? What is the impact of affordable housing on our city resources and schools? Stephanie.
Yes, actually, our affordable housing developments are supported by the city through funds that are completely separate from the tax base, from the part of the budget that supports the schools or the streets. It's created by both grants that we get from the state or from the federal government, and by fees that we get from folks who are building new homes and or bringing new commerce into the city. So the funds that the city uses to build the homes are actually completely separate and don't have kind of a fiscal impact. And one of the things to keep in mind in terms of resources that affordable housing takes and brings is that a lot of the affordable homes are actually supportive homes. They have, they invite grant money to come in and have mental health support services, have, job finding services and other kinds of resources, and it brings them into the community. And they're really great opportunities for the city itself and for the other residents who don't live in those homes, but who may or may not need some additional assistance at some time. So the affordable housing developments tend to be really good sources of support, both like social support and independent revenue sources or independent financial resources for the city itself.
Great. And Vincent, the schools, are they overrun? Are test scores going down?
Absolutely not. It's worth noting that for all developers in the city, whenever they build a unit, they have to pay a developer fee to the districts. And we're agnostic to whether it's affordable or not. We'll take the money. And that money is intended, it has one purpose. It is for us to build capacity in the future for the families and the students that are coming in. And districts are funded based on enrollment and attendance that comes in. And we're one of the few districts in the state that's actually not declining. Most school districts today are declining in enrollment, and we're not. We want those students. And as far as test scores, I think it's absurd to believe that low scores are exclusive to socioeconomically disadvantaged students. That's absurd. We believe that all students can achieve in Walnut Creek. And on a positive note, our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, when they come to us with additional funding, and we use those funding to hire staff and buy resources that not just benefit those students, but every student in the campus.
Great. That's great news. We are busting these myths, guys. So just a moment to remind you all, if you're having questions, we're going to get there soon. So be jotting your questions down as we go, and online as well. Looking forward to it. So myth number 7. Yep, get my slides right. So how do we make sure that it's equitable, that people get into affordable housing, it's equitably managed? It's not, there's not favoritism. It's not a government handout. It's not only certain segments of the population that are advantaged. How can we really make sure that we have, bleep, bleep. It does. Okay. How can we make sure that we have equitable access to affordable housing? Janice, I'm going to start with you this time.
Okay. Well, I assure you there are no backroom deals at Habitat. Anybody who wants to join and be part of the Habitat program, it's a long, hard process. The only thing we give away for free is opportunity. That's it. If a family wants to take that opportunity, they work real hard. And there's a lot of layers to it. Like any lender, we look at somebody's financial fitness and are they ready to own a home? The vast majority of people who come to us are not ready to own a home. We're also a HUD-certified housing counseling agency, so we invite people to get their financial house in order, work with them one-on-one to do so, and in groups. And once they are ready, which is amazing. Most people have never heard of a FICO score. They don't understand consumer debt and what kind of an impact that has on their financial future. So a lot of education goes into that. But for those that do get past the financial, there's a lot more layers to it. They have to partner with Habitat. Our Habitat homeowners put in hundreds of hours of sweat equity building their home and the homes of their neighbors. So like I said before, when we're building the physical community, we're building the human community. And we want people to be ready when they get the keys in their hand to be ready to be homeowners. We also have a family resource committee after sale that works with families, and especially families with children, to help students gain access to all kinds of opportunities educationally. So really it's a very long process. It's a lot of hard work, but it is so not, it's not a handout and it's not easy. We always say it's a hand up, not a handout.
Hand up, there you go, excellent. Stephanie.
Yes, I can, as my staff and I are actually in the process of reviewing applicants from Habitat, and I can assure you, there's a lot of due diligence that goes into all the applications and all the reviews. There are, for not just for Habitat, but for all of the affordable housing that exists, there is a huge effort to make it as fair and accessible as possible. And so that's one of the reasons why the process is such a long, I mean, it really is. It takes months and months to get approved to be in affordable housing. There are laws that define what affordability is and who can apply, and those laws are both like county and state and federal, and we abide by those, of course. But when we're looking at, there's not a lot of opportunity for backroom deals. And one of the things that I would mention is it is our best effort to ensure that it's as equitable as possible, but of course you can't promise like 100% equitability. I think what we can do though is try to have as much integrity in the process as possible. And from what I've seen, all the actors that I've worked with have had so much integrity in trying to make sure that the people who get into affordable housing are the ones who really do need it.
Whoops. Not yet. I was thinking, Alicia, that if I clicked the button, she would speak.
Right on
But I know we
cue.
dealt with this a lot in St. Paul's Commons, and you must deal with it as well in all the RCD locations.
Yeah, the flip side of what Stephanie was describing is that I would validate that all the affordable housing that RCD is involved with is publicly funded, and that's how it becomes affordable. That's the subsidy that allows us to charge lower rent for folks with limited incomes. And that precious resource of that home and all the layers of compliance keeps us focused on that compliance, that we need to deliver the public good with the that was funded by the public money. And so we start way early, before the building is finished. We start about 6 months prior to the construction completion to start the marketing and outreach, so that we have time to have at least 3 months of vetting and going through that review process to make sure that all the applicants, as I said, remember we get 100 applicants per apartment, and so there's a lot of vetting that has to get started in advance, so that once the building is done, we're ready. We've already have residents lined up who are income qualified. They have the right size of household. We're ready to meet their needs, to support them to succeed in their home. And with all of that, what we've found is that our vacancy rate is in the range recently, even after the moratorium on evictions was lifted. Our vacancy as of just a couple months ago is 5.9%, and in March of 2021 it was 4%. So we are keeping our buildings full, and that process is ongoing of vetting.
Yeah, I remember being shocked at the number of applicants there were for St. Paul's Commons, and the due diligence that they had to go through to be selected. And I know Mayor Silva was saying she had a person comment to her, "Oh, all these affordable housing buildings are just lying vacant." And the reality—
There's no need for affordable housing because they're all empty. And my only response was, I think it takes longer to rent them up than it does to, you just can't put a sign out front and say, for rent.
Right, and the reason for the due diligence is to ensure that people are selected who can be successful and stay home. And so that's just a really important part of the process. Chief Knox, are you going to push your button?
Well, I was just going to maybe do a call to action, because most people who are in the audience are probably not recipients of affordable housing. But if you've never volunteered for a habitat project, I assure you it will satisfy your soul. And even if you're not good with a hammer, they will find some way for you to contribute.
Great, thank you very much. Shameless plug. All right, we're on our last myth. So this myth is about what kind of support is needed. And, what you often hear said is, once people have a home, that's all they need. It's pretty easy to run a household. The leases and all the buying agreements, they're easy to understand. So everybody has all the skills they need. Some may, but some may not, Leslie.
Indeed, and Trinity Center, among others, is happy to play that role in a number of different affordable housing complexes in our community. But what are resident services? What are the supportive services that people need? We help people understand their initial and their ongoing and their annual responsibilities in living in these properties and living in communities, upholding their leases. We help people who are new to the area connect in their new place with the schools, with the healthcare resources that they need, with the services, with the transit routes, so that they can really feel part of the community and enjoy their life the same way we all are. We're really good at connecting people with the resources that are available, whether it's behavioral health resources, finding out where the library is and how you get a library card. Here in Walnut Creek, the parks and arts departments, helping make sure that residents can take advantage of those as well. And also, because problems do arise, part of the role of supportive services is to help people with that problem solving. If something is really getting out of whack, it's creating an unhappy tenancy, it's creating an unhappy rental property owner, it's just not good. So we can get in there and help people problem solve in ways that often they can't alone. So why do we do this? We do it because it's important that once people have gotten that housing, once they're that 1 in 100 after having gone through a months-long process and years waiting on waiting lists, we want to help people keep that golden egg that they finally got. we do it and we create supportive services, and why it's part of and important in affordable housing is because we all want to keep little problems from becoming big problems. So we get in there and we address it and we nip it in the bud. And finally, Janice has mentioned this a lot too, we want to be part of helping apartment complexes, housing complexes become communities, not just a place where you live, but a place where you live, you know? Because a successful and happy tenancy is also a successful and happy landlord. And it's also part of creating a stable neighborhood where people can raise families, where they can develop their careers, and if they're the older parts of our community, where they can age in place with supports. And I don't know about you, but that's the kind of community I want to live in.
Great. And Janice, I know you have alluded a little bit to the work that you do ongoing, but
Yeah, I'll just say ditto to it, as you said, because it's very true. And it's what's good for the community is also good for the people living in the community. So all those myths that were listed, I kind of had a chuckle because they're just so fabricated. That is just not true. You don't magically know everything when you move into a home, whether you're buying it or renting it. And if any of you are homeowners and you remember back to those very first documents that you signed on your mortgage, sure, that was easy. You understood everything, right? Not. And we take a lot of time to make sure that our buyers understand what they're signing. They understand the covenants, the responsibility. And if English is not their first language, we will translate it into a language that they can understand. We spend time to make sure that they understand. We teach homeownership to our buyers during their sweat equity process because we are typically working with first-generation homeowners. So if you were lucky enough to grow up in a home that your parents owned, it's amazing how much information and knowledge you pick up as a kid just understanding the responsibilities of homeownership. We have to teach all of that, and so that's part of sweat equity. And like I said earlier, by the time they get the house keys into their hand, then we want them to know how to maintain it. They learn about budgeting and repairs, all of that. Obviously, nobody knows everything, but we work really hard to make sure that people are ready to be a homeowner, and it doesn't magically happen. It happens, again, with a lot of work and a lot of time, and then we have after-sales support as well to make sure that they are successful, because a successful homeowner makes a successful development, which makes a successful habitat and the community. And I will say that nationally, Habitat for Humanity has less than a 2% default rate. And I think the reason for that is because we take so much time on the front end before they ever buy their home on the back end. So they are prepared. They don't know everything, but
yeah, none of us know everything.
No.
That's a great pathway to success. That's awesome. So panelists, you have done your job. We have busted the myths. So now it's Q&A time. Wait.
Just 1 second. I just want to talk about the process.
Okay.
Real quick. Thanks, Molly.
Get out of the way.
Thank you very much. Just to review, online questions for people joining us online, you can submit them through the Zoom tool, and we will collect them and distribute them to the appropriate people on the panel. If you're here in the chambers, we've passed out some white cards. We have a few more, and Don and I will go around and collect them, and we'll process them also. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you for resources and services.
So while we're collecting those, or while Marco's collecting those, and you're submitting them online, let me just talk a little bit about the resources. So, having a little technical difficulty here. So we have on our website the Walnut Creek Homeless Task Force. One more. That's it right there. There's a delay. Oh, sorry. So on our task force website, we have posted a resource.
You need to speak into the microphone.
Thank Thank you. My goodness, I'm telling you guys to do that, and then I don't do that. So this has been a whole lot of fun, but nerve-wracking at the same time. So we have on our website, wchomelesstaskforce.org, a resource page. You can go there. If you're a person who is looking for access to affordable housing, there are resources for you. If you are a first-time home buyer, there is resources for you. If you're looking for a way to get involved, we want to talk to you. So there are lots of ways you can support the building of affordable housing. There are a number of affordable housing funding bills that are upcoming, and a couple of them hopefully will be on the ballot in 2024 in November, on the November ballot. We want support for affordable housing. All of this has been designed to help people understand what it is, why we need it, and we need your support to vote for it. Without your support, we can't build it. And it doesn't take too much opposition to stop a project. I've been there. And we need more support, less opposition, and come to our task force meetings. We will have a recap of this in our meeting on Wednesday, and I'm going to send out an email tomorrow. But starting in 2024, we will meet every other month. So January, then March, and then May. January, yeah. So please join us, and hopefully you've been submitting your questions, and I'm going to turn it back over to Molly to answer those questions. Thanks so much.
I'm not answering them.
Well,
the experts to answer
well, you're
them.
facilitating the answers.
All right. So let's start with the first question. Since we busted all these myths, what's keeping us from building a lot more affordable housing? Alicia, you want to take a first stab at that?
Money. It actually does come down to that is our biggest constraint. It costs a lot to build housing of any type, market rate, home ownership, rental. It is very expensive in the Bay Area to build, and then to make it affordable to folks with lower incomes. That differential is where the public support comes in, and so those. That is the biggest constraint, and we are excited to hear about community members that are working on a couple of ballot measures for next year that would help the regions and local entities like cities to raise more funds for affordable housing. So keep your eye out for that. Check out the website. And I think just really getting to know our community members, getting to know people who are different from us and renters, and so that sort of the process of demystifying that you guys are here is wonderful, because I think that really takes the stigma of that there's a us and a them, and so it's all us, and we can just build that community together.
Janice, do you have any thoughts about what's keeping us from building more?
Ditto, money. It's very expensive, and in home ownership, unlike market rate, it costs the same to build, but we can't sell it for that. We have a very hard cap on what we can sell for, and that because it's based on people's income, not on what the market will bear. So it's extremely expensive. And another reason why those are deed restricted. I also spend a lot of my time in the public policy arena, federally, state, local. So advocacy is a really big deal. And good public policy when it comes to housing, whether it's rental, ownership, whatever, is the bedrock upon which we are able to do and provide more for our communities. There's always a lot of controversy in that. Not everybody will agree on what good public policy is, but it really does make a difference. We need more money, and we need public policy that actually allows us to build what the community wants us to build. Sometimes those two things are not in lockstep.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you both. The next question is, well, it seems we have a lot of affordable housing in Walnut Creek. Why do we need more? Stephanie, I'm going to have you tee up that number of units we need to build.
We're estimating, the state has estimated that the number of units that we're going to need overall.
Not just affordable.
Not just affordable, but because of just general growth that happens in the Bay Area, in Walnut Creek, there's an estimate that we're going to need around 5,800, give or take, units, and around 2,000 of those need to be affordable. And those are just state actuarial estimates. What we've found is that in Walnut Creek, we have a very, very short supply. While we have been very good at creating affordable housing, it is just not enough for the demand that exists. And I can give you all the data like I did before around the number of seniors that we have, the number of households that we have here in Walnut Creek that are cost burdened, which means that they pay significantly more in rent than they really could to be able to make ends meet. And I've talked about that data. It just, at the end of the day, even with the residents that we currently have, there is such a huge need. And then we know that there's not just low income or affordable households that are going to be needed, but there's just a lot of growth that happens in cities across the Bay Area. As a matter of course, it happens all the time. It's been happening for the last 50 years. And so not only do we want to meet the need that we see that exists, but we also want to anticipate and plan for affordability that's going to be needed in the future.
Great. Thank you. So this one might be a stumper. How many new affordable units have been built in the last year or the last 5 years in Walnut Creek?
Let's ask the question and let's let Stephanie and I do the math.
We'll do the math.
Put that up on the flip chart or the parking lot, and we'll come back to
parking
it.
lot.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to say, since I've only been here for about a year, I don't have all the data in my head. I can tell you that in the last year, we have not built new affordable units except, the only ones that I know of that are in production have not yet been completed. So I can't really count them. But I will need to do some research around the last 5 years.
Okay, thank you. So a couple of questions about, let me do this one first. Are all of the affordable apartments in Walnut Creek leased, and are the townhomes sold, or are there vacancies as we discussed? I don't know. Anybody? Janice, are your places all sold up yet?
Phase one of our 42, which is 23 homes, all those homeowners have been selected. Phase two, we have 19, and we're going through that process right now. So if you or somebody you know, we're still taking applications.
Great. And you, Alicia, articulated a vacancy rate in the fives, right? 5.9%?
Yes, across our city's entire portfolio of about 60 developments, our averages vacancy currently is 5.9. I don't know the specific vacancy rate of our three developments.
True, and there are other affordable housing developments, and those leaders not represented here, so it'd be hard to calc that up. But I think our general sense is it's low and the demand is high.
Molly, I can also add our neighbor upstairs, St. Paul's Commons, upstairs from Trinity Center, all 44 units are occupied. And even in the moments when there has been turnover, sometimes due to a good, bad thing, people who have died in those units after having been on the streets for many years were able to live their final years in peace and die in peace. When we came online in early 2020, late 2019, early 2020, since then, the turnover has been very low, and right now it's fully occupied.
Great, thank you. Thank you. So questions about...
You can come back to me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cindy, I didn't see the rest.
No, that's okay.
Please go for it.
So 5 years we have to think about is 2019 through 2023 and what happened in basically the start of 2020. And there is no 1 year like start in January and open in December. These are projects that require multiple years to get through entitlement and then demolition of what might be there already, as well as construction. But I would say that what has been built and opened is roughly 150 units. And then there are 50, a little over 50 that are soon to be leased up or opened, including the Habitat project. But that over the course of the last 20 years, we've collected about $34 million in affordable housing fees from market rate developers, including the project that Nick did for Pulte Homes here in Walnut Creek. And that has allowed us to invest in 100% affordable projects. And those funds have been invested, and there's between 400 and 500 units over the last 20 years. But it's not enough.
Yeah.
We'll go back to question number one.
Yeah, definitely.
Money or units.
So there are several questions that relate to application to get into an affordable housing unit, what average time it takes, what the income limits are, anything, factors that would move somebody up or down on the wait list, disability, age, residential status. And my first reaction is that each project is probably slightly different because of, as Alicia mentioned, the funding sources. But does anybody want to comment on this sort of constellation of questions?
I mean, I can just chime into why every project is different. And that is oftentimes, in order for developments to be built, as we've said before, the funding mix needs to pencil out, right? We need to be able to afford it. And of course, the extremely low or low income units definitely need more money to be given to them. And so the closer to market rate that you get, the less expensive it is for the, I shouldn't say less expensive, but less harder it is for us to find the funds, less difficult it is for us to find the funds. And so every project is different because different projects have different abilities to be able to thread the needle on getting affordable units and extremely low income units. And oftentimes the developers have like 3 to 7 different funding streams, like different funders that they have partnered with to make those affordable units happen.
Yeah, that actually happened with us at St. Paul's Commons. I remember very clearly trying to articulate to the St. Paul's Parish, who are the residents going to be? Well, there's this group, there's this group, there's this group, there's this group, because it's this patchwork of funding that the funders have to put together to fund the whole project. So we have some HUD, we have some HIV, we have some formerly homeless, we have some, it's all patchwork together. So I think that funding conundrum and complexity is not well understood.
Yeah, it is really hard. And then each funder often, not always, but often has their own criteria for who lives there, what kinds of supportive services, if any, what it needs to look like. And so it really is, when they finally do get built, it is like it is almost a miracle sometimes. Like it feels like it, just to be able to bring it to fruition.
That's why we're glad to have a partner who knows how to do it.
That's right.
Last 2 questions.
Well, Molly, would you like a little bit more of a step-by-step? Do you think, I don't know if there's time to give a little bit more information if somebody's actually seeking information about what the application process is like?
Sure, if you can do that quickly.
Okay, sure. So it can be a lengthy process. At the beginning, there will be an advertisement, and usually at like a 2-week or so window where folks who are interested would fill out a very simple kind of interest form online. And often we'll partner with some local community groups that can help people who want to apply, who are maybe tech savvy, to go, how do I do the online application? And make sure that there's languages, it's in the right languages for the local, location. And then that's where we get that long list. And then when we start, that pre-application period will close, and then our property manager will start reviewing in batches for all those different categories. The different sizes of households have to correspond to the different sizes of apartments. And then there's the income levels, and then if there's a kind of special need that is part of the funding requirement, like having previously been unhoused or having a certain kind of disability or being a senior. And then there will be, then those applications, then there's going to be a lottery and to assign a random number. And so that's the order that the applications get reviewed in and in batches. And then the deeper vetting of like a regular rental apartment application of fill out the application, but with the addition of making sure that the financial that the income of the household fits with the requirements, and then there's the interview. So that is just kind of like a regular rental process, but with a couple steps added on the beginning and the end. So it can take a couple months.
Great, thank you for that detail. I appreciate it. And this one, unfortunately, is for you. It says, what is the status of the affordable housing project plan for the corner of Ignacio Boulevard and Civic Drive?
Yes, so for folks who don't know what that question is about, Resources for Community Development, with the city's help, purchased a fantastic parcel on the corner of Ignacio and North Civic Road, right at the north edge of downtown Walnut Creek, and it's a former gas station, if you can picture it. And we have been diligently applying for state funding, which is that, once you have your city funding, we have a commitment of county funding, and then you go to the state for the very large amount of money. And those programs used to be oversubscribed, like $2 of applications for every $1 of funding, and now they're oversubscribed 3 to 11 times. So meaning like only 10% of the applications were getting funded. So we've put in about 5 different funding applications, and we are have been, this is very heteronormative, but we've always been the bridesmaid and never the bride. So we are very optimistic. We have a fantastic program in collaboration with the city and county, and we feel, especially since the city is well poised to earn its pro-housing designation in the coming year, hopefully, that we'll be able to have a competitive score to get those funding awards and start construction in the following year.
Great, thank you. Now, another question for our city leaders. Walnut Creek has never met RHNA numbers in the past. What can Walnut Creek do to meet these numbers in the new housing element?
Well, we're not alone in the state of California. San Francisco didn't make its housing numbers, and the few that did make their housing numbers, to be frank, had lower housing numbers than they should have. So it's easy if you've got a lower bar to cross. But we have done far more than many communities of our size in terms of affordability and affordable units, inclusionary housing ordinances, and my colleagues, I sit on the board of the League of California Cities for the state, and my colleagues at the state level, they kind of look at what we've done in Walnut Creek and say, we've done really good, but we still have to do more. That's the challenge. I'll let Stephanie take a stab at it.
Were you raising your hand to talk about? Oh, well, yeah, that's an abbreviation, RHNA. I'm sorry, I didn't define it.
Right, but so RHNA stands for Regional
Housing Needs Allocation and Assessment. The word for the A changes where you are in the process.
Yeah, it's so true.
Just to make it more confusing.
Yeah, and I can't do a better job than the mayor. I think it is a very difficult challenge to meet, especially when the numbers are estimated by how many people they feel like are going to be moving to the area And like we've said before, there's not often a corresponding financial support to be able to enable the affordable housing to be created. And so oftentimes there's a discrepancy between, I mean, the city can only do so much. We don't have the funds to be able to create the hundreds and thousands of units that need to be created. And so it really does depend on the partnership of a lot of different funders. And so we have a lot of hope. We are trying to put many programs in place to try to support the building of new units and more housing, and doing everything that we can on the city side to try to help create like the soil for all these things to become possible. And it doesn't mean that we can, require anyone to actually build, right? All we can do is create an environment that we hope might actually create opportunities for these kinds of things to happen. And I really agree that Walnut Creek has done a lot, I mean, so much in comparison to cities of our size to really try to make that possible. And I know that we're going to continue to try as hard as we can to meet our arena numbers. It's a huge task and very worthy one.
So, and maybe Nick would want to chime in on this. I mean, basically, it's become more difficult because the cost to build affordable housing is not only the same as market rate, it is higher. And so when you live in an area where there's high price for land, and then you have high construction costs complicated by COVID and supply chain challenges, and you have high labor costs, and then you have the financial markets where I sat with a developer today looking at a market rate project that would include affordable units, and they're timing everything now against the capital market and what it's going to take to get the funding, the price of money down to a level where they can afford to build. So all of this together has nothing to do with intent, desire, or aspirations. It has to do with things that are completely outside of our control. Have I teed you up?
Yeah, I can piggyback off that. I think, if anyone's ever remodeled a kitchen or a room in your house or something, you almost get divorced during the whole process. So imagine doing that, but on a scale of, hundreds of houses, each one with their kitchens and the rooms and landscaping and all that. And then before you even get the chance to even build something, if you had all the money in the world, you have to convince a land seller to sell their property, because the cities don't use eminent domain to build affordable housing. That just doesn't exist. So you can't, the state's telling people you have to build X amount of houses, but they're lacking the tools. The state's not giving them the funding to go buy the land and build the housing. So it's up to developers, nonprofit and for-profit developers, to just by some miracle convince someone to sell you their land. Once that takes a year to do, then it takes another 2 years to get approvals from cities, typically, or counties. And then once you get those approvals, it takes another year or two to get all the documents, construction documents together before you can even build one room or remodel that one kitchen. So the process just takes a really long time, and it's really difficult. And I don't know why we all do it, but for some reason we're crazy. But it's. I mean, just think about the feeling you had. I always think about my wife and I as the first apartment we had, which is this horrible little apartment, smelled like cat pee. And then the next place we got was an ADU, and the two of us lived in this little ADU. And we slowly built up and up, and every place was just so special when you can call a home your own. I mean, there's just nothing like it. So anyway, I really appreciate the city for hosting this, and it's been a great conversation. So thank you.
I think what makes me more hopeful now is that when we first adopted our inclusionary ordinances, we were really focused on 100% affordable projects with that money. But now we're also looking at encouraging market rate developers like Toll Brothers. You haven't come into Walnut Creek. I love the duplex. But we're encouraging them to build the units and take advantage of state density bonus law to build the units within the projects, because then even though you're not getting 100 units, you're getting 10 units out of 120, and they're happening at the same time. So 1910, where the old Fuddruckers is now a building called 1910 Noma. And out of the 135 units in that building, 11 of them are affordable units, and they're mixed in. And so that didn't require any funding from the city or that arduous process to recruit money from the federal government, the state government, the county, and other grant. So we have to use all the tools in the toolbox really well.
My Walnut Creek Task Force buddies are surrounding me. One, Donna wants to make comment, and then we are going to start to wrap up. So
We're coming up about on time, but I do want to comment on the what the city can do. We are lucky to have the city leaders that we do have, the staff, council, planning commission, that have been so supportive of every single project that has come before them, and the significant advice and counsel has been wonderful. It does take time, an enormous amount of time. So we are fortunate to be able to engage with the city leadership and in a forum like this, where we have service provider, developers, for-profit, nonprofit, the school district, Habitat, the police department, and our staff. It's just wonderful. And we couldn't do that if we had a different type of city leadership, and I can speak to that through experience. So join us at the task force. Give these people a big round of applause and support. One of the things that the city did do, the Planning Commission and City Council and staff, was to support Walnut Creek's very first tiny home village, which broke ground. It's not huge, but what the city did was get out of the way and let look at policies and encourage the policies to be to support such a thing, and hopefully we can do more of that. So thank them. If you want to talk to them, do so. If you write them a letter, but be nice, so they will respond to you.
That is not the way our filter works.
I was just kind of kidding. That's what I do. I shouldn't do it. I was told, don't tell jokes. It's not funny. So we have, again, I just really want to thank all of our panelists, our awesome panelists, and Molly for her hours and hours of work, and our task force members and our staff, Meredith with her new baby and all. So come to the task force meetings. Look for the email tomorrow, which tells you about that. Get involved with us. Come and meet everyone here. We do have, most of the time, we have a member of our police department at our meetings. So if you have any kind of issues or concerns you want to talk about there. And we have a video that we want to play now. And the video is someone with lived experience. So then, what is it like for someone to live in what does it mean to someone to be finally in a housing that they can afford? So I think that Jorge will run that video, and make sure you write to us and thank all of our folks here. Jorge, here we go.
Hello, Eli, Liliana, and boys. We are the Hayes family. We moved into our Habitat home about 7 years ago. We are very excited for you to become a Habitat family as well. Your Habitat house is so much more than just a place to move your furniture into. It's the solid ground on which you can plant your family and watch them grow and flourish. You have embarked on a great adventure that will change the course of direction for your whole family.
You'll be able to say yes to many fantastic opportunities that will certainly bless you and others around you. Welcome to Habitat for Humanity family. Welcome home.
Nice to meet you. I'm Elaine. Hi, Liliana.
And you're moving in soon.
Yes, we are very excited to move in soon on our new home.
Yeah.
This is yours?
Yes, mine.
We have a nice view.
Yeah, I love the light that comes in.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to about moving into your new home?
Just stability for my kids and my wife, and I can provide future for my kids He's the oldest. I'm telling him, when you grow up, you have to give it back out to the community because we are receiving so much.
With Habitat's communities, all of the families love and care about each other before we even know each other. There's such comfort that starts when you start building, but then when you move in, the comfort remains. That this is home.
Now you can see the walls and envision the families.
I can see all you kids running around in the parking area.
When I see the house, I'm like, everything's gonna be safe, and everybody who will live here will be turning my family now.
Yeah.
Really nice to meet
Liliana.
you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. See you when my house is completed.
Okay, we'll be here.
Yeah.
When I hear from homeowners, it reminds me of just how profoundly our work at Habitat for Humanity changes lives. Eli and his family are just a few among the many people Habitat served in 2018, thanks to supporters and volunteers just like you. Whether you shared your time, talents, or financial support, I can't thank you enough for being part of our Habitat community. I hope you'll help us build more in 2019 with a year-end donation. From our Habitat family to yours, happy holidays and God bless.
Thank you.